You know, spoken word has a tendency to poke at nerves and free the suppressed emotions that usually don't emerge. And for me, poetry is the sport of lyrical contact. And it's the way that I engage in spiritual combat. See, it's been that way since Miss Contreras handed my class that assignment. And around that time, I'd gotten stuck on that path to defiance. See, my very first poem was about suicide and how the crooked U.S. government has ruined lives. And Miss Contreras shared my poem with my history teacher, trying to convince me that I carried the gift of the speaker. See, I turned 15 that year. I was a sophomore. I was living where they chose violence even when it wasn't called for, afraid that poetry was something I'd be seen as soft for, not knowing poetry was something that I would be called for. But see, I was hard to show no fear in the field, so I treated notebooks and pencils like my spear and my shield. Got to the point that when they cut on those instrumentals and freestyle, they knew when Cory entered the cipher, they turned the beat down. They knew what time it was. They knew I didn't need a beat. They said that I could reach anybody if I could reach the streets, because I'm receiving praises from the hustlers and the gangbangers, but still was lacking the courage to entertain strangers. It wasn't until the day of Lydia's funeral. That was the day that my passion for my craft had ignited, because Rob woke up and said, that Facebook poem was beautiful. And that's when it hit me once I was asked to recite it, because I grabbed that microphone standing before a sea of tears. And when I was finished, they all stood up on their feet and cheered. I even heard applauses coming from the lobby, and that's when it dawned on me that this was more than just a hobby. That's why it don't matter if I'm in the collective or I stand alone. It's hard to call myself a poet because I am the poem. And every time you hear it, you can feel the passion in it. And every time you hear it, you can feel the passion in it. So I don't respect them if their spirit didn't match the lyrics. The stage used to be the perfect place for venting, but for likes and views, you only regurgitate what's trending. But see, I can tell exactly who you are by your spilled ink. And I can tell if you're the fraud or the real thing. That's why it's difficult to acknowledge your pen, because I only feel the poet whose soul believes that their pen does. Like when Pop told me his only fear of death was reincarnation, and wondered if heaven had ghettos in such far places. And as I get older, I relate to how that man felt. I wouldn't want to come back here my damn self. He told me he was raised in the city. Shitty ever since he was an itty bitty kitty, drinking liquor out his mama's titty. And smoking weed was an everyday thing in his household. And drinking liquor till they out cold. I told him the same thing happened in my household. I had to use my pen because my addictions kept my mouth closed. I'm staring at I had to use my pen because addiction kept my mouth closed. I'm staring at the world through my timeline, and that wall between the real and the fake has become a fine line. But DMX said, look through my eyes and see what I see. Do as I do. Be what I be. Walk in my shoes and hurt your feet. You know why I did dirt in the street. And I told him I sympathize because the fire inside me, it controls how I move. It affects how I speak. See, I'm not the one to be placed in a herd full of sheep. I can't stand next to them without exposing fur in my teeth. Plus Nipsey said I had to learn my pace and finish this marathon. So I spit poems like it's a speech from Minister Farrakhan. Like I've written poems with Maya. Like I maced a lot with Malcolm. Like I smoked with Mr. Marley. Like I fought with Mr. Garvey. Look, I'm sorry, I have no flowers for any woman or man that pushes narrative just a finger snapping and hand claps. I have no flowers for any woman or man that pushes narrative just for finger snapping and hand claps. I'm Cory Riotz. Rather, I'm on or off the stage, in public or in private, and I put that on my father's grave. You gotta understand, I'm way too conscious to be concerned with the gimmicks. I've written poems I've had to take healing journeys to finish, and when I was rushing through it, my spirit wouldn't align with it. And I needed it to in order to be fine with it, because the validation from my spirit is a must-have. And if I don't have it, it will always be a rough draft. The spoken word has a tendency to poke at nerves and freely suppress emotions that usually don't emerge. And for me, poetry is the sport of lyrical contact. And it's the way that I engage in spiritual combat.
Talk your shit,